All right, well, thank you all for coming. We really appreciate the opportunity to get to know everyone. As the new student success advocates, we're aware that you may or may not have interacted with our previous advocates. And even if you had, there's a gap between them being here and us starting. So we'd just like to reintroduce ourselves or introduce ourselves for the first time and take the chance to connect with you and answer any questions you may have about advocacy. So I'm Emily. I am serving our first and second year students here at USF St. Pete. I used to work in Hillsborough County. I went to FSU for my undergrad, and I just recently received my MSW here at USF. So I'm very excited about that. I really love teaching. I have a great respect for what you do teaching at the higher ed level. It is not an easy task to be researching in your fields as well as teaching our students, and I really appreciate how much effort you put into connecting with our students and helping them to understand, what it is that they're passionate about, and help them develop those critical thinking skills that will serve them.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Marquita Whitehead. I am the third and fourth year and all transfer students success advocate here. I've been at USF St. Petersburg. Come September will be 19 years. My background is in admissions, both undergraduate and graduate. I am a St. Petersburg native, and all of my degrees, undergrad and grad, are from USF. So I am also an alumna. So welcome, everyone.
Okay, so we'll start by just talking a little bit about what success advocacy is. Success advocacy was created at USF Tampa campus. It is new in the field of higher ed, and there are several institutions that have adopted it, including UCF, following in our footsteps here, because this is a really effective model for helping students persist. So what this looks like at our campus is proactive outreach to students. So we partner with Kevin and Macy, who will be speaking briefly, to contact students via email and phone calls to help with academic concerns. Our specific outreach, Marquita's and mine, focuses on students who are identified as being at risk for persistence or attention at USF. So some things that we consider are how students' grades are, whether or not they're checking Canvas regularly, whether those students are on academic probation or are at risk for another reason. For example, some of our first gen students might have difficulty just because they don't have people in their families who have had this experience and can support them with their own knowledge. We also offer one-on-one coaching with students to support their academic success. We respond to referrals from faculty, so that's y'all, other campus partners, and self-referrals from students. So they're also able to access our form and request appointments with us anytime they'd like to in the semester. They do not need to be at risk to meet with us. They might just be floundering a little bit or have some questions, and they could use someone to kind of go through point by point and help them understand what resources would be beneficial for their situation. And that's our final point here. We help students understand and navigate campus resources and connect them to the right resources at the right time. And sometimes that's multiple resources. We might have a student that we see throughout the semester because as different things come up in their journey, they need different kinds of supports. Marquita, do you want to take some of this one?
Sure. So how advocates help students thrive? The number two points or main points we like to touch on is assisting with the transition to university life at USFSP. Emily deals mainly with incoming freshmen. I mainly deal with incoming transfer students and along also with continuing students. So to make sure they are developing effective time management skills along with study skills, Kevin and I hosted back in the spring how to finish out your semester strong with study skills workshop for transfer students, along with connecting students to campus resources, like Emily said, along with other campus opportunities that will enhance their experience. So we do encourage and promote student engagement across campus. And then the other point is guiding students through their circumstances that may be creating any challenges and barriers to their academic performance. We do that by directing students, again, to campus resources to help reduce those stressors. We navigate them through academic policies and procedures that is beneficial or intentional to the particular situation at that time. The main one we just finished was, say for an example, during the add and drop week. After that week, they may have to go through a late add or a petition to get into a class. So things of that nature. And then we also work with students to build an academic success plan, primarily for those students that are at risk, to help them to continue to thrive and persist at USF St. Petersburg. So that is who we really focus on in terms of the academic success plan. However, we mention it to all students and they are free to develop one with us for themselves as well, even if they aren't at risk.
And we like to share that, we are focused on helping our most at-risk students. That's kind of the population that we love to work with and that we are assigned to work with. But we really are passionate about supporting all students. So if you have a student who's doing really well and they're just, looking to explore more opportunities, because we are connected with campus resources, we are also always happy to meet with those students and have a plan to stay on track or to grow in other parts of their university experience. So to take advantage of everything that USF St. Pete has to offer. And we'd also like to take a moment to allow our new student experience teammates to discuss what they do in brief as well, because our two offices do work very closely.
Thank you. I can begin. So my name is Kevin
Thanks,
Jimenez. I'm the Transfer Programs Coordinator in the New Student Experience Office. We went through a rebranding about a year ago. We used to be called the Compass Office, but we do the exact same things as we did before. As some of you are familiar, we have our peer coach program with student peer coaches that we hire and train to work with our different student populations, myself working with transfer students and transfer peer coaches, and Macy working with first-year students and peer coaches for those first-year students. Through our oversight of this program, we get qualitative and quantitative data on a weekly basis as our peer coaches do outreach to our student cohorts, and they provide a good source of referrals that may come to both Emily and Marquita, because our students are having those regular interactions with those students and making those referrals as problems come up in those conversations every week. Both myself and Macy do programming for our respective populations that are really educational in nature. So things like workshops or sometimes just even events that are just meant to provide a space and platform for them to build on social connections, whether it's with other students that will be attending the event or with peer coaches or myself and Macy. And finally, the last thing I'll touch on is I support transfer students through National Transfer Student Week, which is an annual national celebration that happens every October. And I oversaw the last iteration of that last fall, and we'll be doing so again this October.
Amazing. Thank you, Kevin.
Hi, everybody. My name is Macy Thurler. I'm the first and second year programs coordinator, part of the New Student Experience. I also wanted to share that I was a former faculty member, not here, but I used to teach college public speaking, and I've taught a few other communication studies courses, but and so I have this kind of unique perspective being on both sides, having experience on both sides of student success, I guess. And so now my role is being here part of the New Student Experience. One of the parts that Kevin talked about is supervising the peer coaches. So he tackles the transfer team and I take care of my first year peer coaches. Programming, like Kevin said, so we do different programming, trying to get students connected with each other. That's a huge thing that we're seeing, is that new students are really scared to make friends. They don't think that they will when they first come in. And so I tried to host events that are really engaging and try to get people talking and getting to know each other. I like to have my peer coaches and students get to know the advocates as well, because it is a resource that maybe their friends on other campuses like don't have. And so when they're like, oh my gosh, I'm struggling with this, and then it's not like their friend is going to say like, oh, I met with my success advocate, right? Like it's kind of like a unique thing here to USF. And so it's something that I want students to have a better idea of what success advocates are, especially because we had 4 or 5 months of an interim without success advocates. So the first year cohort from last year really isn't familiar with them as much. But I also want, one of my goals is to connect students with different resources here on campus, not just advocates, but all sorts of resources, wellness, career center, anything like that. And yeah, referrals are absolutely super important. My peer coaches make, I think advocates get the most referrals from peer coaches, if I'm not wrong. And so they get, or at least they get a lot of them. And so we talk through what that looks like with them and the importance of that. And yeah, so that's kind of my role here on campus. I recognize a few of you in the chat just from seeing you on campus. So it's good to have you all kind of in a room, I guess not a room, but a virtual room together. Thanks for letting me introduce myself.
I appreciate that, Kevin and Macy. Marquita and I were also able to collaborate with Kevin and Macy to hold a registration event to help our students get registered this past spring. And speaking to Macy's point about referrals, we are relatively new here. So in the 2 months that I've been here, most of my referrals for first and second year students have come from peer coaches. However, I did, look retroactively at referrals that were submitted during the time that there were no advocates. So if you had written a Canvas referral sometime between October 2023 and March of this year, because there were no advocates on campus, those referrals were not directed to anyone specifically. So I was able to see that there were many faculty members who were active and engaged in sending referrals. And unfortunately, because we weren't here at that time, we weren't able to provide that support. But I really appreciate everyone who did continue to monitor their students and connect them with the best resources they knew to get them to succeed. And we really would love to continue to work closely with peer coaches and with faculty members to get referrals and get students on the right track. And I think that's actually what our next slide is about here, is writing referrals, when to write them, kind of tips and tricks. Okay, so when you should write a referral, and you may have heard this multiple times from multiple different people on campus. So when a student has a concern, whether that's academic, personal, or financial, that's impacting their academic success, that's when we would be a great referral for them. So if you're noticing something, and perhaps it's that they lack motivation, perhaps it's that they are struggling with study skills, or they share a personal situation, they may be navigating a difficult barrier in their personal life, or considering withdrawal from your course, talking to you about an I-grade. Those are all great things, and often our really experienced faculty members kind of know how to support the students in navigating resources on campus. But since you're not being, paid or supported with resources to make sure that you're following student cases or doing case management, please, even if you do know how to refer the student, feel free to write them a referral to us so that we can follow along with that student and assist them as their circumstances change. Most of our referrals from faculty members have come up because a student is missing assignments or is no longer, let me flip that. They are missing classes or no longer participating in their assignments and coursework. Or if you notice a student is just struggling with adjusting to USF St. Pete, that's a great time to refer to us as well. Marquita, would you mind taking over and talking about the different kinds of referrals? I'm going to go plug in my computer very quickly.
Sure.
Thank you.
So the type of referrals that I have received, because most of my referrals have actually been from faculty members and not peer coaches. So last semester, a lot of them were missing class, missing assignments, not responding to faculty members' communications with them. Sometimes I've had faculty members refer the same student multiple times. I have seen faculty members refer students just out of mere concern that some things may be going on outside of the classroom that may be affecting them academically. So those are some of the referrals that I've seen so far in the 3 months that I've been here as a success advocate. And again, that is specifically speaking toward 3rd and 4th year and transfer students. And I have upper and lower level transfers.
And we will be providing this recording as well as this PowerPoint with all of you to refer to. So here below, just kind of a quick refresher. If a student has something that's impacting their health and well-being, or they're displaying behaviors of concern in your course, that is a SOCAT referral to our student outreach and support team. However, those behaviors might also impact their academics, so you can do more than one referral. It's likely that SOCAT might refer them to us themselves as well. Macy, I see that you have a question.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I wanted to
No, please feel free.
quickly just emphasize the importance of those SOCAT referrals. I sit on SOCAT, and so all the referrals that come in, we go through and we basically do a risk assessment for each referral that comes in, and we make an action plan for each and every one of those students, whether it's a student that isn't communicating effectively with you, or it's a student that is something of more severe nature. Each student is reached out to. They don't have to engage back with us, but we do have an action plan for each and every student. So if your spidey senses, they say, are tingling at all, write the referral, because we have from the most minor to the most major, but regardless, the student knows that someone cares on campus, and that can go a long way as well. So I just thought, as we're talking about SOCAT, that I would say that. Sorry, guys.
Thank you. And no, that's great. And worst case scenario, if you send a referral to SOCAT and it should have been us, or to us and it should have been SOCAT, we will get them in the right spot. Then below you'll see that if a student is experiencing hospitalization or long-term medical concerns, that would be a Dean of Students referral. But you, of course, can do more than one referral, and kind of the same thing, the Dean of Students will usually have their office reach out to appropriate resources on campus to get students connected there as well. For you to write a direct referral to the advocates, you do that navigating through Canvas. In your Canvas, you'll have an option to refer a specific student to advocates. And that process, I think, is explained in a little bit more detail on our next slide. Or perhaps it is not. Marquita, I know that you are a little bit more familiar with that. Would you just go over briefly how to actually locate the Canvas referral?
I am not sure where that is in the instructor version of Canvas, because when I was an instructor, we didn't have advocacy.
Oh, that's fair. Okay, so I'll make sure that when we do, I think that's in our initial email that we sent to y'all, but I'll make sure that when we share this slide with everyone, or this PowerPoint with everyone, that we also include that information for how to make a referral. And then we do have some tips for making effective referrals to the success advocates. And the first of which is, please communicate with your students first. So it is really important that our students are communicating with you about any issues they might have in your class. So if they're missing assignments, if they're missing classes, please try to reach out to the student first before you refer to us, because they have a relationship with you. We are someone they might not know. They may or may not have worked with us before or heard of us, and they might be receptive to speaking with you about what they're going through. At that point, if you speak with the student and it turns out that what they're going through is an advocate referral, please try to let them know that you're writing a referral. And I like to point out here that in K-12, which is my background, saying that you're writing someone a referral typically means you are sending them to the principal's office, to someone they're in trouble. So for our first time in college students, our freshmen and sophomores, my advice would be to say, I'd like to connect you to your success advocate, or I'd like to send an email connecting you to your success advocate, because for those students, that connotation with referral is really negative, and it might make them feel that they are not doing well, that it might impact their trust in the relationship with you. So that would just be kind of my 2 cents. Is I really recommend considering the way that you're phrasing this to students, so that they understand we're here to support them.
And just to add to that as well, when you refer in Canvas, it automatically connects the student with their assigned advocate through Archivum, which is how we receive the referrals to respond to.
So that is great. So you don't have to worry about like, is a student actually a first year, but they're a transfer, so they're Marquitas. If you do it in Canvas, it will get to the right person. However, what we've learned is that that referral on our end is going to appear in our students' archivum, and that's where we respond to referrals. And we have learned that even though we have to type in our archivum the outcome of, our contact with a student, what we did, that doesn't communicate back to Canvas or to you what we do. So what Marquita and I try to do is reach out to the student as soon as possible. And we usually reach out by email first, and we'll BCC you so that you can see the referral has been acted on. We try to reach out to students at least 2 times in 2 ways. So if we email them, they're not responding, we'll give them a call as well. And again, you're not necessarily going to know the outcome. If you do want to follow up with us, if you have additional concerns, or you're like, hey, were you able to reach that student? Just want to get an update. I haven't heard from them. Please feel free to touch base with us. And you'll know who the advocate is because we will have BCC'd you on our email.
Yes, I echo that as well. That's important to feel free to reach out. And I also want to add a little tidbit of when you may hear from me directly, even if you did not refer a student. Let's say a student reaches out to me themselves to make an appointment, and one of the issues may be an incomplete grade that they are not seeing changed in their Oasis account. I will reach out to the faculty member for that. If a student says that they are not sure how to interact and engage outside of the classroom with a faculty member, like email or just visiting during office hours, I will reach out to a faculty member for that. I will also always, every time I respond to a Canvas referral in Archivum, I put the faculty member on there each and every time via BCC. So, but like Emily said, I do not include the faculty member in the outcome, meaning once the student responds, I'm only engaging with the student at that point unless the student says or requests that I reach back out to the faculty member. Or I always encourage students that have been referred from faculty members to speak with the faculty member about their interaction with me. And that way that puts the onus on the student to determine how much they want to share, if they want to share at all. But I do always advocate for that. So those are sometimes you may hear from me without a referral being sent to me by a faculty member.
And I'll agree. Similarly, I did mention it, but I do also often do like a kind of introduction email for the student. So if the student is afraid of asking to meet with office hours, for my first time in college students, my first and second year students, often they did well in high school, and there's a lot of shame and fear around not doing as well in college. And they also don't always feel the same kind of connection to their instructors because they don't see you every single day, which is what they're used to, what they had been used to. So often what I'll do is, just like we're saying to you, kind of your first step is to reach out to the student. Almost anytime I talk to a student, they're struggling with the class, their first action is going to need to be talk to your professor. Like, are you not understanding the material? Is there a deadline that you missed? Please reach out to your professors. And when they struggle with that, I usually will email you and say, hi, so-and-so, I've just met with your student, this person, and please be on the lookout for an email or communication from them in the next 2 or 3 days. I give the student a hard deadline, and then I CC them so they can see I did my part. And then the next step for them is for them to actually schedule a meeting with you during office hours or connect with you in class to discuss the issues. Okay, and that's kind of what we've got on our end. Are there any questions that we can answer for you about advocacy, any ideas you may have, or any experiences you've had with advocacy, whether good or bad? Go ahead, Radford.
By the way, I'm RJ.
Oh, RJ. So sorry. Thank you.
Yeah,
I appreciate that.
Just so you know, there's
I
not
can
two
only see
people
your
here.
name now, and if I were seeing your picture, I would know that it was you.
Let me do my camera back on here. There we are.
There you are. Thank you.
So everybody knows that's me. A couple comments and questions.
Of
First
course.
off, the including this on a BCC with a student is fantastic. We weren't getting that feedback in the past, and I found that to be really helpful to know that an action's been taken. And then I know to, be on the alert in case a student wants to come talk to me about it. So that's great. You guys are aware we're not capable of seeing Archivum, right?
Yes.
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 So anything you put in Archivum, we don't get to see.
Right.
So we really need this other channel of communication. One of the things you asked for is, kind of the warm handoff. Let the student know we're doing it. But what I'll tell you is quite often the reason I'm coming to you is because they're not responding to me.
Okay.
And so in that case, they may say to you, no, the professor hadn't told me about this. But if they're not communicating with me, then that warm handoff may not
Of course.
may not be there. And
That makes perfect sense. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh, no. Sorry. The other thing I wanted to mention is one of the main reasons that I find myself referring students is when we're getting to that kind of point in the semester where students have to make a choice to withdraw from the class or not. I try to make sure I send them your way, because in isolation, maybe dropping the class is a good thing because they just don't see themselves catching up to where they need to be. But there's a lot more that goes on with that. And I just wonder, are you guys the right place to send them for that sort of conversation?
Yes. So that actually is you brought up several wonderful points. I'll kind of address them in order. One, thank you so much for sending referrals. We really appreciate that, RJ. If part of your concern is that you can't connect with the student, just go ahead and include that in your Canvas referral, that you've made attempts to contact the student. You weren't able to contact them, and therefore you couldn't let them know that they were meeting with us. We'll kind of be able to assume that if you didn't catch base with us, that they might not know. Something else that is really great about Macy and Kevin working with us specifically is that on occasion I've seen faculty member referrals where the faculty member couldn't get in touch with the student. I was not able to get in touch with the student by phone or email, but then a peer coach talked to the student. And when the peer coach said, "Oh, you have a success advocate," the student was like, "Oh my gosh, please connect me." So then I try to follow up on peer coach referrals within the hour if I can, so that I can kind of capitalize on that moment, being like, "Oh my gosh, you actually are connecting with someone, to hear from me. You're not going to just send me straight to voicemail because you're anticipating my call." So all of that is great. We are the correct people to refer to if a student is considering withdrawal, because they have other options as well. They may decide that withdrawing from your course is the best option for them, or they might have financial aid considerations that they need to take into account that's going to impact their financial aid if they drop below 12 credit hours, for example. They may not be aware of grade forgiveness options, and they may also not be aware of how failing your class might impact their ability to stay in their major, all those different things. So you're absolutely correct that it makes sense for you to address with them, "Hey, this may not be the best time for you to complete this course. As your instructor, I'm seeing that you're really struggling. And, with the input that I have and the perspective I have from teaching this course and seeing how students do, I really think it's a good time for you to talk to someone about what your options are." They can absolutely talk to us. We will continue to refer them to other resources as necessary. So I might go over their financial aid with them in brief and say, "Hey, I see you have these scholarships. Let's look at the requirements for each." But because I'm not, perfectly educated in financial aid, I will still send them to financial aid. I just kind of help them to have a better conversation so that when they go there, they know what sorts of questions to be asking.
And I'd like to add to that, if faculty feel like it's a situation that they're referring directly, if I can just know that I was the first point of contact, that will be helpful in how I construct my email to the student. However, in general, I don't construct my emails or outreach to students as if I'm reaching out to them because I received a referral. So just a little tidbit of my style and how I reach out to my student population. And if any time a faculty member wants to meet with me one-on-one, I take one-on-one meetings with faculty, whether it's for a specific student or just general concerns about advocacy in their nature, I'm open to that as well. Emily and I are very excited to forge relationships with faculty members, to learn you all style, to learn what works best between the communication, between the relationship of advocacy. So this isn't a one and done thing. This was more of an introduction to letting you all know who we are and that we are also available to you all as well.
Are there any other questions that we can answer? Hey, well, thank you all so much for coming. We really appreciate your time. We know that this is a busy part of the semester. You've got midterms coming up pretty soon. Lots of assignments are being submitted at this point. So we appreciate you taking the time out of your schedules to meet with us and kind of put a name to our faces, or a face to our names, is what I mean to say. Please feel free to drop by or say hi if you're on campus and you'd like to chat about something. And if you have ideas, or if you have an experience with advocacy or anything else that we might be able to support you with, we are here to support, our campus community. So if there's something we can do to be helpful to you, please let us know.